Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Barakahak Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who ruled and teach well. And peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya coming at you with another lesson. And I'll be profiling this short video from Rethink Podcast's YouTube channel titled "The CIA Spent Millions Studying Consciousness. What they found will change how you see manifestation." And I often get a lot of bugged out stuff coming across my feed, especially on TikTok. But regardless, what this Jake's going to go into with this CIA study is that pretty much you create your own reality out here. Like instead of grinding harder, he's going to mention that grinding harder, stacking up bread and stuff like that. It's a mental thing. And before I came into the truth, I heard a lot about this manifestation stuff. And you got a lot of people that's into this manifestation stuff. If you think about something hard and long enough, it's going to come to pass, which according to the scriptures, that is clearly not the case. The only consciousness that's getting manifested out here is the will of the Lord, nothing else. And, the only thing you're manifesting is what the Lord has preordained for you, to manifest. Because contrary to popular belief, there is no free will, neither is it a biblical concept. But before we get started with this is Proverbs chapter 16. I'm going to start at verse 1, then jump down to verse 9. The preparations of the heart, or the la'ab, the mind. The preparations of the heart, or mind in man, and the answer of the tongue is from Yahweh. So those thoughts you have in your head, those conversations you have, the very moves you make have already been preordained by the Lord. Now I'm going to jump down to verse 9. A man's heart or mind deviseth his way, but Yahweh directeth his steps. You wake up one morning, you have your whole itinerary set up. I'm going to go do this, that, or the other. But, hey, that's why it says in the scriptures, Lord willing, because whatever the Lord has planned for you to do that day, you're going to fulfill it to a T. And it doesn't matter how much manifesting, astral projection, the 33 secrets, all that stuff you want to read or do, it doesn't matter. But without further ado, let's get to, Jake spewing more madness out here. But fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes.
And show yourself approved. Take what I'm giving you and Google it and research it to make sure what I'm telling you is right. Don't just believe what somebody says because they're sitting in front of a microphone. I'm giving you this information so you can use a scientific method. Determine if this is yes or no, if this is right or not. If I'm telling you, I know I'm telling you the truth, but you don't know that. So I'm going to give you the name of these titles, of these documents, of these reports. And I want you to go out and take a look for yourself. I'm going to do a summation and I'm going to give you some overviews, but I want you to go out and study and take a look at this stuff. All right, so back to the report. Again, the report was entitled Analysis and Assessment of Gateway Process. This was authorized and authored by U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Wayne M. McDonald. So the government's objective was to strip away the occult stigma of metaphysics. Hear me clearly. The government's objective was to strip away the occult stigma of metaphysics and use quantum mechanics, theoretical physics, and biomedical models to understand human consciousness and the phenomena of out-of-body states. That was the purpose of these studies. What the intelligence community investigated and ultimately affirmed is a truth that believe it or not, aligns seamlessly with the principles of conscious living and identity-based transformation. That means consciousness is the source of all reality. I'm going to say this several times.
The Lord's consciousness is the source of all reality, not just your average, everyday, dickhead out here.
Government study. They concluded that consciousness is the source of all reality. This is not a religious study. This is not a collegiate study. This is not some company putting out money for this. This is the government seeing value in this, or at least inquisitive enough to dive into this thing and say, hell, now listen, I don't know what the objectives were outside of what I've just stated, but certainly understanding people's behavior is one of them, and they concluded that consciousness is the source of all reality. I just want you to take that in. Consciousness is the source of all reality. Now, we say it a lot here on this channel. You probably heard other people in this space say the same thing, or Abraham, or Muji, or Eckhart Tolle, or whatever the case may be. Consciousness is the source of all reality. You do not need to force the world to bend to your will through endless hustling. Instead, by cultivating your awareness and focusing your mental energy, you can consciously create your own reality. So that's a mouthful in and of itself. So again, the name of the study was Assessment of Gateway Process, and it was authored by U.S. Army Lieutenant.
Now, mind you, this is a CIA study saying this. And the CIA, of course, is the Central Intelligence Agency, dealing with what? Espionage, spying, and psychological operations. And, this Jake is putting so much emphasis on, CIA spent millions on it, so it must have some validity. When has this government, or Esau Edom, the so-called white man who runs this government, the devil himself, which devil goes into what? Deceiver, ever told you the truth? This is 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 11. Lest Satan, the physical counterpart of the spiritual demon Satan, Esau Edom, should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. And going back into what I said earlier, I've looked into a little bit of this whole manifesting conscious reality stuff before, and when you have an understanding of the scriptures, you see just how much of a BS it is. Because think about it like this. Say, you got a lot of people that believe in this. Oh, if everybody just gets on the same wavelength, we all believe positively and, all stick together, what? We're going to manifest a better world out here. Well, in the society we live in, where from birth all the way up until whatever your age you're in, you're constantly seeing propaganda in TV, on the internet, and social media. Who's to say that this so-called positive reality people want out here, that they think is better than the current reality, isn't just a psyop being pushed by the government? And then when you got people believing in manifestation and consciousness, they're further falling into the web, playing into the games of the powers that be, which, without going too far off topic, you can look into something called the Age of Aquarius, which, this whole new age lifestyle, you got a lot of people living out here that goes back into that, which that's all, goes into, satanic left-handed practices and government psyops. But regardless, when we go to the true source, the scriptures, there is no free will. There is no manifesting your own reality by your own thoughts. The only thoughts and reality you're manifesting is the will of the Lord. And by looking at all these end times prophecies that were said to take place in the times we're currently living in, coming to pass as we speak, hey, that's a pretty significant signifier on what the truth of things is out here. But that's it with that video. I'm gonna go to Jeremiah chapter 10, verse 23. O Yahweh, I know that the way of man is not in himself, It is not in man that walketh to direct his steps. It is the will of the Lord that directeth man's steps and his very thoughts. And, as it's about to say in Job chapter 33, this current day we're living out, today is what I'm saying. Me recording this lesson, whoever's listening to this lesson, listening to this lesson, or whatever anybody's doing in their daily life, the Lord already had it predetermined for you, the night before, sealing your instructions. This is Job chapter 33, I'm going to read verses 14 to 18. For the Most High speaketh once, yea, twice, yet man perceiveth it not. In a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falleth upon men, in slumberings upon the bed. So as you went to bed last night, and as you're going to go to bed tonight, then he openeth the ears of men, and sealeth their instruction, setteth their reality, set in place, their consciousness for the next day. And as it said in verse 1, yet man perceiveth it not. You got people out here walking around thinking they're making their own decisions and living their own lives, but you're living out the life or the consciousness of the Lord to fulfill his will. And yes, that includes people doing horrific things out here, and that includes people doing good things out here. Because another concept, not even a concept, another reality of life is reincarnation. So when you see, supposedly bad things happening to people out here, that's a judgment from a previous life, from something they did, wickedly in a previous life, or hell, something they did previously in this life. But regardless, the Lord sets it up to where all the appropriate players, and however the situation plays out, plays that game. Verse 17, that he may withdraw man from his purpose and hide pride from man. Like I was saying earlier, you may wake up one day and have your whole day planned out, but the Lord will have it to where the only thing you're going to do is what he wants you to do. Brothers always bring up this point, when we were out prophesying, downtown, or, brothers that are prophesying downtown. A guy, a walk by the camp, didn't have it on his mind at all to listen to the Bible or come across the prophets. He woke up, went downtown to go shopping, link up with the chick, go have a drink, whatever. And then the Lord just had something happen here or there. A red light stopped him, so he had to divert, construction, had him go down an alternate route to where what? He just happened to come across the camp and hear the words of the Lord, whether to be saved or whether to be, judged. Verse 18, he keepeth back his soul from the pit and his life by perishing from the sword. Like I just said, when you come across the men on the highway, the men of the Lord on the highways and byways, it's either, you're sealed for salvation or sealed for, damnation. And also, looking at it in your daily life, I know plenty of people have instances to where they were supposed to go to one place, but again, traffic may have held them up. Their alarm clock didn't go off at a certain time, so they were late, and they may have missed a wreck. They may have missed a shooting, a major incident. The Lord didn't have it for you to take part in that situation. He had it for those people that did get caught up in that situation to go through it. So again, going back to the premise of this lesson, the only consciousness that's being manifested is the will of the Lord. This is Ecclesiasticus or Sirach in the Apocrypha, chapter 18. I'm going to read verses 1 to 3. He that liveth forever hath created all things in general, The Lord only is righteous, and there is none other but he, who governeth the world with the palm of his hand, and all things obey his will. For he is the King of all, by his power dividing holy things among them from profane. Point blank, period. The Lord governs the world with the palm of his hand, and everything obeys his will. Not just man on earth, but angels and demons, even his son, Yahushua, whom the world ignorantly refers to as so-called Jesus. The only person you can truly say has free will is the Lord, and everybody else is just enacting his will, his consciousness. This is Proverbs chapter 21, verse 1. The king's heart or mind is in the hand of Yahweh. As the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. Even these very same satanic elites out here bringing about their, NWO, this digital society, and ultimately the MARK of the beast, that micro C hip implant. Hey, that's really the Lord's, NWO and mark he's bringing. It's just that what? That's not what's going to be the end all be all of rulership. The Lord is only bringing, he only raised up Esau and got him into power to do what? Fulfill his will of these final few prophecies. And then once Esau has reached those bounds which he cannot pass, after he mandatorily implements the mark, the Lord has no more need for him and is going to cast him aside and set up the true rulers, the children of Israel, your so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, beginning with the elect and with the prophets, of the elect. They're letting you know what the will of the Lord is and his consciousness, and helping and manifesting it by what? Preaching his word on the highways and byways, as well as putting up video epistles like this. Because at the end of the day, when you understand these prophecies and what's supposed to be happening in the last days, you can see that this is the Lord's consciousness being shown before you. This is Isaiah chapter 55, verse 11. So shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth, his word in the scriptures going forth through his mouthpiece, the prophets. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it. So everything in the scriptures that was stated to have happened in the past, that's stated to happen currently, and that's stated to about to happen, hey, everything is taking place right on time, just as clockwork. And like I just said, his prophets, his mouthpiece, are letting you people know what the will of the Lord is, and by preaching his word, manifesting his consciousness unto you. This is Matthew chapter 24, verse 14. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations. And what has done the major legwork of getting this word unto the ends of the world? The unicorn, or the internet, which, with the brothers of GMS, or Great Millstone, which, if the Spirit's dealing with you, Salakia, you can see that the Spirit of Yahweh Bahashem Yahushua is dealing with the men of the Great Millstone. You've got brothers of GMS in Canada, which, I did a video a little while ago showing that, up in Canada, they're coming out with new anti-hate speech laws, which are going to, demonize those that preach the Bible, which that's another part of the Lord's will, the famine of the word. You've got brothers in Canada. You've got brothers in America, brothers in Central and South America, Africa, Europe, Japan, the Philippines, etc., all, preaching this gospel of the kingdom unto all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. And we can see, everything that was said to take place in the last days, according to prophecy, taking place as we speak. So without sounding like a broken record, we can see that consciousness does manifest reality, but it's only the consciousness of the Lord that's manifesting his reality, point blank, period. But that's it with this video. With this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. We are almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharallah, and until next time, Shalom.